We are going to get started. First off, I apologize for the beep that will occur every time I unmute and mute myself. I attempted to change the settings, but I think I'd have to leave the meeting and come back. So welcome to you all. Right now we have about 66 people who are watching right now, and we have myself and our 6 other panelists who will be sharing today. So thank you so much for being here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Brittany Williams. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Acting Assistant Dean of Admissions and Recruitment at the Faculty of Law at McGill. We really appreciate you being here tonight and hope that it is beneficial to you as you prepare for an impending application. So before beginning, I do want to acknowledge that this event, although virtual, takes place on the unceded traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka and on the territory known as Tiohtià:ke to the Haudenosaunee and as Montreal to many others. It's of the utmost importance to me to acknowledge that and thank those who have long been stewards of this land, which I get to benefit from each day. I'm very happy today to be joined by several people who will open up their cameras very soon and share a little bit about themselves. But we have Josie Rota and Astrid Chakmachian, who are student affairs consultants, who will be sharing kind of at the beginning. We have student ambassadors, Beatrice and Nathaniel, who will be sharing a little bit. And then we're also joined by Anna Goldfinch, who is a alum of the faculty and who will share about her experience during and after McGill Law and share some insights on how she was best prepared for where she is now. And I also want to thank my colleague from the admissions office, Kelly Hanley, who is going to be helping on the back end with questions and the like. Alors, comme vous le saviez déjà probablement, le programme de droit à McGill est fièrement bilingue. Alors, ma partie de la présentation va se faire en anglais et en français. Soyez à l'aise à poser des questions dans les deux langues. Gênez-vous pas. So, juste un petit peu sur le plan de jour et quelques conseils pratiques. Le plan de jour est comme vous voyez ici. On va commencer avec des mots de bienvenue. Juste un petit peu sur WebEx. Je sais qu'il n'y en a pas beaucoup de personnes qui sachent comment ça fonctionne. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à les écrire à Kelly ou moi pour qu'on peut vous aider. Après qu'on va commencer, on va faire un petit survol du programme BCLGD et de la faculté avec le bureau de SAO, Student Affairs Office. On va parler un petit peu sur le soutien en matière de développement de carrière. Et vous voyez, you'll hear from 2 students and an alumni that I just mentioned. Après ça, on va parler un petit peu du politique d'admission et le processus d'admission. Et si tout va bien ce soir, on va avoir au moins 20 ou 30 minutes pour des questions à la fin. So I will start with a general why McGill Law, and then I'll ask my colleagues from the SAO to take over. So a little bit about our faculty. It is the oldest law school or law faculty in Canada, and the faculty really has an excellent reputation, both internationally and nationally, and has ranked within the top 20 to 30 schools in the last 3 years. In September 1999, the faculty implemented its integrated transsystemic BCL JD program. So at the time, it really represented a new and innovative way to teach law, where instead of learning the common and civil law in silos, you learned both legal traditions in the same courses in both English and French. And so since then, the program has changed quite a bit to include a number of new legal perspectives and courses. Back in 2016, there was a curriculum renewal which really focused on, amongst other things, including more Indigenous legal traditions in required courses, and also the inclusion of integration workshops and focus weeks, which there'll be a little bit chat on in a little bit. And then in November 2019, we received permission to change our BCL, LLB, and the LLB designation to change to a JD. So the LLB has always been a what's called a JD equivalent degree, but this new degree designation doesn't really change much, other than to have kind of the same letters for individuals who are attending school across Canada. And so our unique program really ensures that students graduate with a cosmopolitan understanding of the law, one that's not confined to any specific jurisdiction or even legal traditions. And so our students learn legal concepts comparatively through the lens of common and civil law with Indigenous legal traditions and perspectives from really traditions all over, incorporated into the approach to teaching law. And there really is a focus on teaching. At times, the faculty has kind of, had the reputation of being too theoretical, but I would say that from experience, what's been really great is that theory has helped me better understand laws that I might not have seen in courses. So, you'll learn to be a lawyer during bar school, which is, a great time, or when you're, writing the bar, when you practice. And so, there is, McGill really teaches you how to think about the law so that you can develop creative and unique solutions. And I would say that it's a really great approach to approaching a legal education. So I'm going to pass it off to my colleagues Astrid and Josie, who are going to speak about the work that they do at the Student Affairs Office and a little bit more about the specifics to the program.
Hi, Brittany. Do you hear me? We're good? Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Brittany. So my name is Astrid Chekmachin, as Brittany mentioned earlier. I'm a student affairs consultant for first and second year, and I also deal with exchanges and clerkships. So a bit of an overview of our BCL JD program structure, and what should you expect throughout the progress of your degree. So during your first year of the BCL JD program, students will be introduced to Integration Week and workshops, which is meant to be an introduction to the faculty and to your legal studies. It is a mandatory week, and it's part of your integration workshop course. The workshops provide an opportunity for a group of students, roughly around 15 to 20 students, and a tutorial leader who is an upper year student, to work through assignments and develop skills such as legal writing, legal drafting, responsive public speaking, among others. After Integration Week, you'll begin with your first year courses, which is required and may be taken only during your first year. So you have a total of 7 first year required courses. We have contractual obligations, ex-contractual obligations, torts, criminal justice, Indigenous legal traditions, integration workshop, constitutional law, and foundations. Tous les cours de première année sont obligatoires et s'étendent sur toute l'année, à l'exception des cours, du cours sur les traditions juridiques autochtones, offert uniquement au trimestre d'automne, et le cours de fondement du droit, offert uniquement au trimestre d'hiver. Les étudiants de première année ne sont autorisés à suivre que les cours obligatoires de première année. During the second year, students will be required to take their mandatory 2L courses, which includes judicial institutions and civil procedure, property course, which is a year-long course, advocacy, and legal ethics and professionalism. These required courses may only be taken during your second year. Students may also take law complementary courses and law electives, such as focus week courses, in addition to your second year required courses. My colleague Josie will be discussing this in further depth in the following slide. During your third and fourth year, hello? Oh,
sorry, Astrid. No, it's my fault. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So during the third and fourth year, students may elect to go on exchange throughout our student exchange, human rights internship, and competitive mooting. Most of these are only available after your completion of your first and second year, except for the human rights internship, which is available to the first year students in the summer term. In addition, students could undertake a capstone project in the last 2 terms of your program, which is meant to provide an opportunity for reflection, on a student's trajectory as a jurist towards the end of the student's formal legal education at the faculty, and may be undertaken using various modes of communication, including but not limited to academic writing. Your 3rd and 4th year usually corresponds to the final year of your program, depending on the number of credits taken per term. Our students could always reach out to one of our SAO advisors, like me or Josie, to ensure that not only you have completed a total degree requirement of 105 credits, but also that you completed your mandatory courses, your writing requirement, and your basket courses. Now I'll pass to my colleague Josie, who will be discussing in further details regarding your complementary courses, experiential learning opportunities, and focus week courses.
Hi, everyone. Welcome this evening. So my name is Josie Rota. I am the upper year advisor and currently the interim manager of the Student Affairs Office. So I've been at the faculty for a few years now, and doing the admissions information session is actually one of my highlights of the academic year. So I look forward to seeing you and welcoming you at the faculty should everything work out for you. So I'm going to continue on from Astrid, talking about second year students as you become a second year student. So as a second year student, you can complete complementary courses in the civil, common and social diversity, human rights and indigenous law basket, as well as the administrative law. You can also take elective courses in multiple fields of law, going deeper into areas of special interest. Vous avez aussi l'opportunité d'acquérir de l'expérience pratique au cours du programme BCL JD. La faculté de droit offre de nombreuses occasions d'apprentissage par expérience, par l'entremise de concours de plaidoirie, auxiliaires aux tribunaux juridiques, cliniques juridiques, échanges, être membre de revues de droit et de stages en droit de la personne. Ces opportunités vous permettent de profiter d'options de programmes élargies, d'étudier des questions juridiques sous une nouvelle perspective et de créer un réseau de personnes contacts au sein de la profession juridique. As mentioned, the renewal of the curriculum introduced intensive focus week workshops. These one-credit pass-fail workshops are taught in an intensive period during the fall and winter terms and offer an opportunity to critically analyze and develop relevant skills from experts in the law. They are given by practicing professionals that introduce students to current topics like negotiation, mediation, entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence, and conflict resolution. So now I'm going to pass it along back to my colleague Astrid, who will be talking to you more about our program. Astrid?
Thanks, Josie. So yes, so a very common question that we hear from students, whether the degree should be finished in 3.5, or 4 years. So I'll be talking a little bit of the length of the program. Donc, le programme de BCL JD de 105 crédits est l'occasion d'apprendre les traditions de droit civil et de common law dans le cadre d'un seul et même programme d'études intégré dont les étudiants peuvent le compléter en 3 ans, 3 ans et demi ou 4 ans selon le cheminement individuel et les options choisies. You'll need to plan to ensure not only that you complete the 105 credits, but that you complete your mandatory courses, your writing requirement, and your basket courses. Les étudiants et étudiantes qui terminent le programme obtiennent un double diplôme de droit civil, BCL, et de common law, JD ou Juris Doctor. Il est possible d'accélérer l'achèvement du programme en 3 ans en complétant des crédits d'été et en prenant un nombre plus élevé de crédits pendant l'année universitaire régulière jusqu'à un maximum de 18 crédits. vous devriez commencer à planifier à la fin de votre première année si vous souhaitez terminer le programme en 3 ans. Pour le cheminement de 3 ans et demi, à un rythme normal de 15 crédits par trimestre, le programme peut être achevé en 7 trimestres. La plupart de nos étudiants et étudiantes choisissent ce cheminement régulier pour achever leurs études. Furthermore, students may also wish to enrich their program by adding a minor, such as in arts or a minor in science or in management, a major, or an honors program. All these three options entail additional credits, extending the program to 4 years. We also offer 2 joint programs, the BCL JD and Masters in Business Administration, so BCL JD MBA, or the BCL JD Masters of Social Work. The joint programs have separate admissions applications and may be done at the same time as the admission to the BCL JD or within your first year of law. Students interested in pursuing any of these options are encouraged to meet with a student advisor. My colleague Josie will now discuss in what ways students can enrich their legal education by becoming more involved in the community.
So beyond our program, so there's always something happening at the faculty and at McGill campus and beyond. I understand during COVID times, this could be a little untrue if you want. However, I'm happy to say that since the start of fall 2021, the faculty and the university has regained its life, and there's a lot happening on campus and at the faculty. Clubs and activities. There's a full roster of visiting speakers and plenty of opportunities to get involved in ways that you can enrich yourselves. You can enrich yourself, and you can apply your legal education. And you could also create a long life network of colleagues and friends. So as you can see here, you have the Law Student Association, Innocence McGill, peer-to-peer. So there are a lot of opportunities where you can get involved. As a first-year student, the Law Student Association has Clubs Day, and it's an opportunity to get to know what clubs you can be part of, participate in, and also have the opportunity to create your own club as well. Donc, je retourne la parole à ma collègue Astrid et elle va continuer le cheminement du BCL JD. Astrid? Oh, no, sorry, c'est Brittany qui va vous parler du Career Development Office. Désolée.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So a quick note on our Career Development Office. It is a really great office that facilitates, among other things, recruitment and interview processes for a range of employers and actively develops relationships with potential and current employers. So these are employers, as typical or traditional as law firms, governments, but also local and international nonprofits, businesses, and these employers are located really all over the world. There are some that are definitely more present, for example, Montreal, Quebec, Toronto, Ottawa, but there are also, other places in Canada, but also internationally. So there's really a lot of opportunities to be able to connect with individuals who are working in the field that you're interested in, and who can help you kind of achieve those career goals. So some of the events that they have include career days, on-campus interviews, networking, mentoring, CV review. There's a really a wide gamut of things that are possible through the Career and Development Office. And to speak to you all for a little more about what it has been like to do the program and then to kind of enter the workforce now, we have Anna Goldfinch, who is an alumni, BCL LLB 2019. and she's going to share a little bit about her experience. So I'll ask you to open your camera and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay, Britt? Perfect. Okay. Hi, I just wanted to say thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you all. It's unfortunate I can't see your faces, but hopefully you are excited at the prospect of doing law at McGill. Okay, so I'm going to work a little bit backwards here, going from the least relevant thing I've been asked to talk about to the most relevant thing to what's in the PowerPoint. Which I should say, a disclaimer, is the opposite of what I was taught to do when giving submissions in court at McGill University. They taught me very well. I'm doing the exact opposite of what they taught me, but I really wanted to start with what comes to mind when thinking about what I got out of my degree at McGill. And it's nothing that you saw on the PowerPoint as the first point. The first thing is the people. I think that there is something that the admissions office does. They have a secret sauce recipe. There's something that they do where they admit just really special cohorts of people who come from all kinds of different backgrounds, think about the world in different ways. And it's such a pleasure to get to study with them for 3.5 years. And I'm really lucky in that a lot of the friends that I made at McGill are still my friends now. There are 6 of us actually from our cohort who live within a 10-block radius of one another. We see each other weekly. And honestly, it's such a wonderful professional network to have, but also a great support network, especially going into those early years of your practice when you're going to need other people to, talk things out with. So that's one of the things that's kind of intangible and might not be mentioned in this presentation, but I really wanted to highlight that the people that McGill attracts are so fantastic. And it's one of the things that really has supported me after my degree and throughout it as well. I also want to say, and this kind of gets back to more of what was talked about in the presentation, is that McGill really offers a diversity of opportunity. It is an academic program, as Brittany was saying earlier. It's rigorous, and it really likes to turn people into, jurists, people who think about the law. And, despite knowing that the program was like that, I was still interested in more of a practical learning path. I wanted to be able to get on my feet, get into court, get into tribunals. And so what's nice about McGill is even though it is a rigorous academic program, there is a diversity of opportunity for you. So, for example, I took trial advocacy and the civil litigation workshop, which are 2 upper year courses, fantastic for being able to prepare you for litigation in the future. One of those courses, the exam, is a full day trial that students put on in front of a real superior court justice. And it was a fantastic opportunity for me to get some real practical skills. And in addition to that, I was able to do a full year clinic placement where I worked with clients. And I also did a moot where I got to, write a full length factum and argue it in front of kind of in a mock court of appeal setting, which was great practice and just a really great experience that's offered at McGill. So all of those experiences together really helped me to get some of the practical skills I needed to be able to apply for the types of jobs that I wanted and feel like I could hit the ground running and get the most out of the early years of my career. Additionally, some of the things that I got out of McGill, which haven't necessarily contributed to my career, but just enjoyment of the program and something I would highly encourage students to take advantage of, is a lot of travel opportunities come out through the program. So for example, I did a summer in Colorado as part of the human rights internship program that McGill offers. I also went on exchange to Copenhagen, which was fantastic, and got to learn all kinds of things about the domestic law in Copenhagen, in Denmark, as well as European constitutional law. Really, really interesting. So all around, I think that McGill offers such a well-rounded program, and it's something that I was really interested in, wanting to learn as much as I could, and also gain some of that practical experience, and also to have fun in the meantime. So, for example, going on exchange and traveling and doing all of that, that was great. I also want to say, as an aside, one of the things that I really appreciated about McGill was that it was affordable, that I wasn't stressed out as much about student debt as I know some of my colleagues were. Having gone to schools in Ontario, I come from a family where I was on my own to get myself through law school. And, I had all kinds of emotional support, but financial support, that was on me. And McGill provided a lot of opportunities for me. So if you're thinking like, wow, this girl like just traveled around everywhere when she was in law school, like going on exchange and things like that, she's just rich. That isn't the case, actually. McGill actually provided a lot of aid, which was really helpful in getting through my degree. So I would say, I know that that's not necessarily directly related to where McGill got me in my career, but it did get me to the career that I wanted. I wasn't as worried about having to make the most amount of money, getting the most competitive base rate salary to be able to pay my student debt. I could think about careers in less high paying jobs, like, for example, legal aid, public interest litigation, things like that. So that's something that was really important to me and kind of influenced where I ended up, which I haven't really talked about yet. So one of the things that I wanted to mention was that even though I was really interested in kind of that practical route, working on moots and at clinics, I realized at the end of my degree that I really did have the academic chops to apply for some of the more academic route type things. So for example, clerkships, which are usually really focused on academics, I really didn't think I was interested in until I learned a little bit more about them and thought by the end of my degree, you know what, I do think I'm qualified to apply. And I ended up clerking at the Ontario Court of Appeal, where I clerked for Chief Justice Strathy. I just finished clerking a few months ago, and it was a phenomenal experience. And so, McGill gave me the mindset and the way of thinking about the law that I could apply to the work of a clerk and in helping my judge think about difficult problems in the law. But also, it gave me the practical experience I needed to move into the career I am now in after clerking. I'm an associate at Goldblatt Partners, which is a labor law firm, a union side labor law firm, where I work for unions and workers. And I also do public interest litigation that spans all kinds of things. It's really interesting work. And so all of the experiences that I got at McGill have helped me in ways that I couldn't have even predicted. But every now and then I'll come across something and think, wow, this is really cool. I learned this at school. Or I'll run into someone and think, I'm really glad I had that person in my network because I knew them at McGill. So I just really want to emphasize that the program is a bit of a choose your own adventure in the sense that you can really shape it to what you need. And, it might not be the pipeline from, directly from school to Bay Street, although that's supported and the CDO can really help you if that's your goal. But what I really appreciated about McGill was that they envisioned alternative legal paths and helped you get there. And so, I did have to advocate for myself a little bit. I had a vision and I didn't really know anyone who had gone the union side labor path. And so I had to, knock on the door of the CDO and say, hey, do you know anyone who's doing something related to this or anyone I can talk to? And they set me up with people and helped me gather my network. And I ended up getting to exactly where I wanted to go. So I hope that gives you a little bit of perspective on how the options that are offered to you throughout the program are going to help you later on. And I have to say, I'm very excited for you if you do come to McGill, because again, kind of just to circle back to what I said at the very beginning, you really are going to make some amazing friendships and connections that will last your lifetime. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. It was really great to hear from you and hear how your experience at McGill has shaped your experience after McGill. I know that Anna is not able to stay for the entire session, but it is possible if you get in contact with us, then we can ask Anna if it's possible for you to, let's say, add her on LinkedIn or something like that, in order to get some, some more questions answered, things like that. Go ahead. That's great. Okay, awesome. So yes, you do have the permission to reach out to Anna on LinkedIn if the things that she said interest you. And there will be some time at the end in terms of questions that perhaps we won't be able to answer, about Anna's experience specifically, but around jobs in general, these things can be responded to. So if we continue, I will pass it back over to the SAO team to speak about clerkships.
So thank you, Anna. That was just so lovely for you to share your experience. And in the same vein as Anna has described, there are all these opportunities available during your program here at the Faculty of Law at McGill University. And one of those opportunities are clerkships. So it's just an example of the depth of McGill's network in providing exceptional learning opportunities for students. So as of second year, you can already start thinking about applying to a clerkship. For credit is pass-fail. So this is throughout your program, you have the opportunity to apply. Top 3 choices: Cour d'appel, Cour supérieure, Cour du Québec, Chambre criminelle, Cour du Québec, Chambre de la jeunesse, Tribunal administratif, le Bureau de décision de la révision des valeurs mobilières, la Cour municipale de la Ville de Montréal et la Cour du district de Laval, Laurentides et Lanaudière. So these are great opportunities that you get to work with a judge. Over the years, I've heard nothing but great feedback from students who have participated in these clerkships that are year-long. So you work with a judge starting in September, and typically by the end of March, you've completed your clerkship. So if that doesn't work out for you during your time completing your BCL JD, there is the opportunity after graduation to participate in the Superior Courts of Canada clerkship. So this is obviously once you've completed your degree, and it's a great opportunity to get experience working with a judge and really developing your legal writing skills, developing your network as well. So these are just opportunities that are available to our students once they're here completing their program with us. So thank you very much.
Amazing. Great. So if we move on to our next slide, we're now going to hear from 2 current students who have been asked to share a little bit about their experience. Beatrice and Nathaniel are both in their 4th year, and I'm sure that they'll speak to some of the opportunities they have had throughout their program, and kind of some more general helpful hints to think about as you prepare for an application to McGill Law. So Beatrice, I'll let you unmute yourself and go first.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So my name is Beatrice, and I am a 4th year student, or a 4L, at McGill Law. I also have, I'm working towards a minor in political science as well. So I'm doing the full 4-year version of the program. And for context, before coming to law school, I originally came from CEGEP. I applied straight out of CEGEP. I went to Marianopolis. And I am from Quebec, but from a smaller town, and I moved to Montreal when I was a teenager. So yeah, that's a bit about me. It's so lovely to have you all here today. I know that this might seem a bit daunting, but it's really an exciting time, and I'm super happy to be at McGill Law. So today I hope that I can share with you some experiences about kind of how I got to law school, my experience with the admissions process, and then my life now as a student at McGill. So first, I want to share with all of you what I think best prepared me for McGill Law generally. And the first thing was the fact that I created a good and strong work ethic. In CEGEP, I focused a lot on figuring out what my best study methods were, what motivated me to work, what didn't, my best productive hours. And from that, I was able to get really good time management skills, which I think is incredibly important for law school. McGill Law, as you've heard tonight, does have some rigorous academic work, but there are also a lot of interesting opportunities that have nothing to do with like the classroom setting. You'll meet a lot of interesting people, and there are events constantly. So developing a strong work ethic to manage your time and to balance all the different realms of life is incredibly important and something which I think has allowed me to succeed. Something else that really prepared me for law school, surprisingly, was my experience in dance. So I did ballet for 10 years, which gave me a lot of experience in personal growth, perseverance, determination, and teamwork. I believe that all these skills have really helped me out in law school. So if you have any experience doing sports or just general leadership, I do believe that it's helpful for teamwork, but also just for finding your path as you go through law school. The last thing that I thought really prepared me for McGill Law was my experience volunteering within my community. So before I had gone to law school, I used to volunteer a lot, whether it was at like local community centers, shelters, churches. It was something that really I was passionate about. And I think that this prepared me for McGill Law because it gave me kind of a different perspective on life. There's obviously a lot of privilege that goes with like being a law student. And you'll read these cases that are dealing with very like human experiences. So I think having experiences with vulnerable and marginalized communities gave me a better idea of the impacts of our justice system and the law, which has been really enriching to go alongside my program and has also inspired the route of my career, my future career. Now I'd like to talk a bit about what I wish I would have known in the application process for law school. Applying from CEGEP was a bit of a scary experience given that everyone's applying at the same time and my CEGEP was quite small. So there was a lot of talk. And I know that a lot of CEGEP applicants might be in that situation. And something that I wish I would have known at the time was the importance of authenticity. So when I was applying, I was a bit nervous because I wasn't kind of what I expected a typical law student was. I had never done mock trial, model UN, or like debate. So I was a bit scared on being my like honest and truest self throughout the application process. And I decided to go with being authentic and being confident in like my specific story and who I am and my own motivations. And I think it really paid off for me. Obviously, I'm here today. But I think just kind of being confident in my authenticity is something that I wish I would have known. Something else I wish I would have known during the application process was the existence of student ambassadors like myself. I wasn't aware of the student ambassador program and that I could reach out to student ambassadors to ask them questions on life at McGill Law, which I wish I would have known. And the last thing I wish I would have like known or done during the application process was do a bit more research on what I'd call the fun side of McGill Law. Because when I was writing my application and thinking about applying, I was really looking at the academic side of things, the program structure. But as we just heard from the Alumna, there's so much that goes on outside the classroom, like the Law Students Association and clubs, and those have made up a huge part of my degree. And I didn't even really know about them when applying. So I wish I would have done more research on that. And you can also get more information on that by speaking to the student ambassadors. So now I'm also just going to talk a bit about my life as a student at the faculty and how I've kind of structured my degree and what has been like my highlights personally. So I have always been very dedicated to extracurricular activities with a specific interest in like student governance and also governance at McGill more broadly. So I was a part of the Law Students Association in an elected position for 3 years, so every year up until now. And last year I was the president. And I also have held many positions on the Student Society of McGill as well, which is the undergraduate society. And I've also had the opportunity to sit on a lot of committees around campus. So in my second year, I was on the curriculum committee, which is so interesting to see, what I was working on then become a part of the curriculum now. Something that I also focused my degree on a lot was getting those practical legal skills. So for me, I wanted to really learn what it's like to be out in the field. And a highlight of that would definitely be mooting. I did the Winkler class actions moot last year, where I got to learn a lot about class actions law and got to plead in front of actual lawyers, which was super interesting. I also volunteered at the Legal Information Clinic at McGill, where I had a lot of clients from Montreal calling about, housing issues or family law issues, and I had to give them information. And I also did the human rights internship last summer, where I was able to work for a housing rights nonprofit, which was especially important for me given the intersection with COVID and its impact on housing. Something else that I've really enjoyed throughout my degree has been being able to mix the skills that I've developed before law school with my legal interests. So before law school, I was very interested in marketing. I studied when I was in Marianopolis commerce. So for me, marketing, business, management were super interesting to me. And I was able to be on McGill's Journal of Sustainable Development Law in like a management position where I was doing the social media marketing for the journal. So that was something that I really enjoyed because I didn't have to leave all my interests from before law school at the door. And I was able to really combine all my interests in one. And during my law school career, I've had a lot of different kinds of jobs. When I came into law school, I didn't really know what I wanted my career to be. I just knew that I was really interested in the law and it was something that I was well suited for. But I've had the opportunity to do a bit of everything, especially with the support of the Career Development Office, who helped me out a lot. And I'm happy to know that now when I'm graduating, I know I'm interested more in public interest and public service. And last year I did the articling recruits, which is a whole other thing, but it's basically like the job hunt. And I was able to get a position for articling in my desired field. So that was very exciting as well. And now that I'm in my graduating year and we were online for quite a while, my focus is really just on taking the time to soak in the time I have left at McGill Law. I'm spending a lot of time with friends, a lot of time just going to events that I've always wanted to go to. There's actually a Supreme Court justice coming soon, so that's exciting. And just really having a nice, graduating year. So that's it from me. I've really enjoyed my time at McGill Law, and if there are ever any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But while the application process might seem a little daunting and the idea of law school is one of those things that might make you a bit nervous, I really am so happy that I'm here now. So I guess I'll pass it on to Nathaniel to talk about his experiences.
All right, are we good? I'm pretty sure we can hear me. Can I get like a thumbs up or something just to let me know? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly. Hi, everyone. My name's Nathaniel. I'm in my 4th year here at the faculty as well. It's great to be with you all, even though it's virtual. Okay, I'm just going to say something because it seems like we've been talking about clerkships just as much as we've been talking about admissions. Let me kind of breathe a little bit into why we're doing this. So to my understanding, Quebec is really different in that you can clerk as a course. Now, there's a lot of other law schools throughout the country that make it difficult to do so. So I've heard of people clerking, in their 1st and 2nd year of law school over the summer of their law school. I haven't heard yet of anyone being able to clerk in a different province as a course when they're actually doing law school. During the year. It's really important because I actually clerk. So I actually clerk at the Montreal Municipal Court. Throughout the year. So I even did it during COVID. So I went to court once a week, spoke with the judge. We talked behind the scenes. I had to sign an NDA. And it was fantastic learning. So even if you don't know if you want to do like litigation or if you want to do like transactional work, that's totally cool. If you don't understand those words right now, that's totally cool. I had no idea what those words meant before I even started law school. But I just want to kind of throw that out there because it's pretty unique that law schools will allow law students to clerk during law school as opposed to a summer. So anyways, that's just it on clerking. So my journey to law school, if maybe you're like me, you're maybe applying to law school because you think it opens doors. That's why I applied to law school. I wasn't this person who was thinking that I want to be a lawyer my whole life and blah, 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 blah. I did a bachelor's of social work prior to going to law school. I also went to Cégep here in Montreal. I went to Dawson, then I went to McGill for my undergrad in social work, and then I applied to law school. So maybe you're applying to McGill because you like Montreal. Maybe you're applying to McGill because it's cheaper, which is a valid reason, by the way. Or maybe you're applying to McGill because you like this idea of like diversity. I applied to McGill for 2 reasons. Partly because I didn't have to write the LSAT, which is a real, not a lot of stress on that. And also because it was very like close to home for me right now. There's something to be said about McGill law that I did not know that Anna touched on, and it's super important, and it actually is the people, as cheesy as it sounds. So just for some like context, I'm like Anna, I also got a job on Bay Street. So I'm originally from Montreal, originally from Toronto, in Montreal, and I'll be going back to Toronto for working. Now, when you work at a big firm, you tend to meet a lot of people from a lot of the other law schools across the country, especially on Bay Street. And what I noticed with McGill is that the applicants from McGill are very holistic as opposed to the other law schools, which isn't a bad thing. It's just what other law schools look for. So something to keep in mind when you're going through your application, when you're going through your cover letter, is to honestly look at how you're different. Maybe you're like me and you did social work before, or you did something unrelated to law, like maybe you didn't do like a bachelor's of economics, a bachelor's of like political science or anything like that, and you're applying to law school. Those are strengths. Don't shy away from them. Maybe you did a bachelor's in nursing, a bachelor's in engineering, something else. Those are great ideas. Those are great constructs. Those are great experiences that you bring to the faculty that the faculty actually looks for. So for instance, right now I am doing the joint BCL and JD degree, but I'm also doing a master's in social work at the same time. So I actually continued my social work education even when I got into law school, and those are 2 separate applications, which I won't get into right now, but you can get into both. And if you get into both, you're able to do both simultaneously, which won't affect recruitment. But again, it's a little bit like too much information for now. So it's really important to understand what makes you different and to take pride in that. And McGill actually looks at that, like from being on the inside. When you're writing your cover letter, I had nerves too, because you're wondering, is this what they want? Is this what the school wants? Is this, am I putting my best foot forward? If you're being authentic, if you're showing how diverse you are, if you're showing that you bring different experiences into a classroom, into the environment, you're doing great. Show those things on your cover letter. For me, in all honesty, the strongest thing that you can do is write an amazing cover letter. I wrote like 12 versions of my cover letter. It's just how it is. Because in reality, you're going to prepare pretty much the same for all law schools when you apply. What I have found is that with McGill, look to what makes you diverse. Now, in terms of how great it's been in the faculty, something else to stress with the faculty is its vast alumni. Now, I know this sounds like every open house is going to say this, but let me give you an example. So when I was going through basically job recruitment, like Beatrice alluded to, and like Anna went through, which allowed her to get her job. I reached out to McGill alumni in Toronto, which is pretty interesting because you would think that most of them stay in Montreal. That's really not the case. There's tons of McGill alumni on Bay Street in Toronto right now. I reached out to an alumni, and we spoke on the phone for like 3 hours. Now, was that my experience with every alumni I met with? Of course not. But that just goes to show you how strong our alumni is and how willing they are to speak with you. You know, if you need to hold your hand, if you need to just some simple guidance, that's great. Having student ambassadors on this call right now, like myself and Beatrice, who are in our 4th year, it also shows that too. Now, from being in the faculty, so like I said, I did a bachelor's of social work coming into the faculty. I had no idea what I wanted to do once I got in, right? I wanted to do everything though. And the faculty allows you to do that. So it really is a choose your own adventure. I'm someone who's very practical. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to learn in the classroom, but I'd rather be in the forefront. Maybe that's the social work in me. The faculty has allowed me to do everything, and not because I had a business background. So let me give you an example. When I was in my 2nd year at the faculty, right before COVID hit, I reached out to someone who ran a business law legal clinic. Again, my background is in social work. It's not in business. I reached out to him. The next thing I know, I'm on the executive committee of this legal clinic, and then a year later I'm now running the legal clinic that works with startups and entrepreneurs in the Montreal area. Again, this is one of the legal clinics that works in association with the faculty. Off the top of my head, there's probably 20 legal clinics that work in direct association with the faculty, which is fantastic because you really get to get your hands dirty in your 3rd year in terms of meeting with clients, taking phone calls, doing legal research, not legal advice. That's a whole different thing, but actually able to engage in areas of the law, not only in a classroom setting, but with real people. Something else that's super important is that we have the legal information clinic here at McGill, which Brittany was also a part of, and which I was a part of too. And most likely Beach as well, just something that it's almost like a rite of passage here at the faculty. And they have something called the student advocate, which means you actually represent students not from the faculty of law, but from McGill University entirely, and you represent those students at disciplinary hearings. Again, it's just another option of something you can do. Something else is that we have a lot of professors who have a lot of research going on. So maybe you're someone who wants to be much more academic on the scene. Not a problem. There's tons of professors who have research projects that invite students from 1st year. In my 1st year of law school, I was doing intellectual property research. I barely knew what intellectual property was. I barely knew where the library was, but the professors are very open and they bring you on and they teach you. Which is something that you don't even learn in your 1st year in terms of intellectual property, but that's the culture that's here at the faculty. There's also tons of journals, the McGill Law Journal, the Journal of Sustainability, the Health Law Journal. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of the support that you get from upper year students is fantastic. In my 1st year, I was paired up with someone in their 3rd year, and they really helped guide me through exams. And that's something that's standard. It's something that's the norm as well. So my experience has been fantastic. It's really up to you to make it your own, though. A lot of these things I have to go on my own initiative, but the options are there. And, I've had an incredible time. I came in with social work. Now I'm going into corporate law. And that just goes to show you the amount of support and flexibility that the faculty has and the alumni have too, and really helping you feel welcome, helping you explore your interests, and really helping you have a great time. So that's it for me. And I look forward to speaking with you during the Q&A session.
Amazing. Thank you so much to the both of you for sharing with our students, or our prospective students. So now we are moving to a section that I'm sure everyone has wanted us to get to from the beginning, which is how to prepare your application. If you do have questions, feel free to send them to Kelly Hanley, who is I think the co-host of the WebEx, or also myself, and we'll address them at the end. So, un petit peu sur la demande d'admission en droit, quelques conseils pratiques. Avant de postuler, posez-vous les questions suivantes. Quelles sont mes motivations pour étudier le droit? Quelles sont les forces et les faiblesses potentielles de ma candidature? Dans quel environnement veux-je étudier? Quelle faculté de droit serait la meilleure pour moi? Il y en a des facultés excellentes à travers le Canada et dans les environs. Alors, faites des recherches sur la nôtre et d'autres écoles. J'ai mis nos handles de réseaux sociaux pour que vous pouvez regarder quelques, peut-être des photos qui représentent la faculté par rapport à nos étudiants et différentes choses comme en dehors de la classe. C'est important de lire notre site web avant de nous contacter. Nous sommes toujours heureux, je m'excuse, de répondre à vos questions par email ou dans des sessions de advising. Mais c'est important de regarder à notre site web en premier. La plupart des informations que vous avez besoin sont sur le site web. Alors, prenez le temps de le lire complètement pour voir si la réponse à votre question est là déjà. Try not to kind of depend on things that are on some of the forums that exist out there. I know that when I was a student, these were things that I was looking at to get a better idea of what was happening, who was being admitted, and what their grades were. But being someone on the other side of admissions now, I can tell you with full certainty that unfortunately they're not accurate. And you have a small subset of people who are applying who are actually on these forums. These forums can be a great place for community to kind of get to know other people who might be in the running for a spot. But don't depend on this information as something that is objectively true. A little bit about our admissions policy. So the objective of our admissions committee is to select applicants who are best suited to studying law at McGill in the unique program that we have here. And so there is what we call a holistic approach to reviewing your application. So there is no one part of your application that is going to be prioritized over another. It's really important for us as a faculty and an admissions committee to have well-rounded students. It's all well and good if you have great grades, but if there's not much else on your application, we're not sure how you're going to, fit into this unique place. And so we want to make sure that you have a really robust application and that we consider each part of your application equally and favor not one over the other. I'm going to speak a little bit later to the diversity of the class, but what's something that's really important to know is that we are looking for individuals who come from a myriad of places. So, there is no one type of right, or perfect law student. That changes, the types of law students that are accepted changes year to year. And the cohorts never look the same. And it's something that we pride ourselves on. We really do try in every snapshot of a cohort to make the best decision for the faculty at that time, and have individuals who are, have that holistically great application. I'm going to speak a little bit more around to passive bilingualism in a bit, but it is a requirement that you do have a certain level of French and English competency in order to be admitted. And I'll speak in a bit about how to demonstrate that. This is due to the fact that, amongst other things, given that you're graduating with a BCL and a JD, courses are going to be in English or French. Sometimes there will be a heavy amount of both languages in one course, and exams, papers, and moots can be done in both languages. And the fact that, if we're dealing with different systems, they're going to be in different languages. So of course, the civil law system is based in the French language, so it's important to have that competency. And then the common law is based in the English language. So it's really important that you have that kind of basic high intermediate French competency in order to be admitted. This is a quick snapshot of the competitiveness of the program, specifically around the incoming 2021 cohort. So these are the individuals who have just started first year. We had almost 1,800 applications to the program this year. This is a 25% increase from last year and about a 30% increase from numbers or averages over the last 5 to 10 years. So we're expecting that that was an anomaly, but it might be that it replicates itself again this year. So that kind of affects some of our numbers. We made 251 offers, and there were 181 spots that are currently taken. And the average CGPA is 85%, and the average LSAT is 164. I'm going to speak a little bit more to the LSAT in a bit, but I just want you to know that these grades don't indicate any cutoffs. We don't have any cutoffs in the program. As we said, we do have a holistic approach to admissions, and so there is no grade or no GPA or LSAT that will, preclude you from having a spot in our class. So, because these are averages, you need to understand that people will fall on either side of this number. And so don't let these numbers kind of shut the door for you in terms of whether or not you believe that you'll be successful. If you're able to show us through a well-rounded application that you would be a great fit for the school, then then that's great. And none of your grades are going to be automatic door closures to your admission. A quick snapshot of just CEGEP admissions, as this is a good number of our cohort. So last year there were 674 applications, which was also a 25% increase. We gave interviews to 74 individuals, and we made 35 offers of admission. And the average R score was 34. And here you'll see that the highest R score was 39, and the lowest was 32, or almost 33. It's important to know that as CEGEP applicants, there are a lesser number in the incoming class. So it's really important to kind of soul search and think about whether you want to come directly from CEGEP. We of course welcome you to apply if that's something that you desire. But given that the majority of the class is going to have completed an undergraduate degree before, these are always considerations that should be made. So a little bit about the excellence that's rooted in the diversity of our class. Here's a snapshot of some numbers that were collected in our first year student survey, as well as throughout the applicant process. And so in terms of how this translates at the faculty, we pride ourselves on striving to be a diverse and equitable faculty. It is a journey. It is never a destination, and there are constantly moves being made and initiatives being taken in order to better represent the society really in our classrooms every day. And so these numbers, are just a quick look at the diversity of our class now, but they can always be better. And so, we want to see diversity in all of its forms in our classrooms, and we encourage you to identify yourself in your personal statement or other pieces of your application if you belong to any underrepresented groups at that are spoken about at the university. Because it helps us understand who you are a little bit better. So some numbers here, 32% of the first year course, or the first year class self-identify as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. 44% belong to a visible or racialized minority. 17% of first generation students. 70% of students are not receiving any aid from family or guardians in order to fund their studies. So these are just a good snapshot representation of the kind of students that we have and the kind of numbers that we always want to see increase. So some bits about admissions requirements. So these three bullets kind of represent the majority of individuals who are going to be applying to the program. So first, if you have a CEGEP degree or DEC or a Quebec French baccalaureate, then you are eligible to apply. if you have a CJEP degree and at least, or at most, 30 credits of university studies, then you are eligible to apply. And then the last is at least 60 credits of university studies. So a quick note, there's an asterisk there because having 60 university credits doesn't always mean that you're on track to graduate by the time that you would be beginning law school. And so while it is your right to apply, it's really important to understand that you're going to be far less competitive than the rest of the pool if you are applying with the knowledge that you won't have finished your undergraduate degree prior to beginning law school. We're not trying to disadvantage you in any way, but because you will have not finished that degree, there will be many people who have finished their at least one undergraduate degree who will be more competitive because of that completion. And also, I personally think that you might be doing yourself a disservice in not finishing your degree. So these are really important things to think about when you are considering applying, not being on track to finish your degree. So now I'm going to go through supporting documents. It's really important kind of on the outset to check out our website and look to see what the supporting documents are, how to upload them, what information is required, how many times you can upload them. We are constantly updating our website if there is any new information that you need. So really important to check that out to have the most up-to-date information. But a little bit kind of more specific around these supporting documents. So the first is the academic record. It's important to know that there is no specific DEC or undergraduate degree or really field of study that it was required to study the law. Nathaniel had mentioned it before, but really the doors are open in terms of where you can come from before entering law school. So there are some folks who will start in something more typical or traditional like poli-sci and then come to law. But I have peers and I know of individuals in the program now who have come from music backgrounds, who have come from medicine backgrounds, and really just a really wide range of individuals who are joining the program. A complete academic record of all of your post-secondary studies is required. You're going to want to continuously check up on Minerva to make sure that you have uploaded all of the necessary documents. But this is basically anything that you have done post-secondary, including exchanges and transfers. And if you have been or are enrolled at a CJEP, you do have to include your permanent code. In terms of the academic record specifically, the committee is looking for consistency, improvement, difficulty and range of coursework, really just helping us understand the type of student that you are when you're applying. I'm going to speak a little bit more about the LSAT in a bit, but it is not required for admission to McGill Law. But it's important very quickly that if you are going to write it, you write it by the November in which you are applying. So if you're applying now, that you write it by this, like in the November dates that are coming, November 2021. And this is to avoid any delay in reviewing your application. If you don't decide to write it in November and then decide to write it in January, which is the latest that we will actually accept, there is a good chance that this may affect the review of your file. So you want to make sure that you have that information in terms of when the tests are, so you know if you do want to write it, when they are coming. And I mentioned before, there are no academic cutoffs or thresholds. And I want to kind of go back to the French requirement, which is oftentimes kind of seen alongside the academic record. There are many ways that we will assess your level of French or English. And this is through your academic record. If you have taken courses in your post-secondary studies around in French, if you studied at a French university and taken classes in French, but also you can include things on your CV like work experiences where you were working in both English and French. And there's also a spot to indicate that on the application that basically has a breakdown for both English and French, what your competencies are in reading, writing, comprehension, and speaking. Some more supporting documents. So you have your CV. So this is a document that is 2 pages maximum, and you really do want to tailor it to an application for law. So make sure to, you know, it's possible to Google, find information online about, you know, what may be looked for in a CV for an application to law school. But do your best not to make it kind of a copy and paste of, you know, a CV that you sent for a job. You do want to make it more academic leaning. It's great to highlight any achievements, you know, be it academic or extracurricular in nature on there. Any and all work experience is relevant. Sometimes there are, you know, folks who will ask, well, should I include, you know, I don't know, the day camp experience that I had on my CV. I mean, what that tells me is that you are an individual who can balance a lot of things all at once. And, you know, it may be good in high stress situations. So don't discount any of your experiences because they don't feel like they are, you know, maybe the best or most fitting for an application to law school. And please include the number of hours that you worked, especially during the academic year. It really helps us to see, you know, again, how well you do at dealing with competing priorities alongside your academic journey. The personal statement is, you know, sometimes the most laborious piece of putting together your application. Above all things, it's really important to maintain authenticity when you're writing. I don't know how, but we can often tell when someone is, you know, being inauthentic or saying things that they believe the admissions committee wants to hear. So really, when you're putting together this document, you want to concentrate on authenticity. That authenticity might, you know, be represented in a very like formulaic way, you know, kind of the 5-paragraph cover letter type personal statement. But also if you want to write in a new or different way, then if you are able to kind of respond to the questions, why law, why McGill, why you, then the way you do that is really up to you. You want to make sure that, of course, you edit, make sure to submit an actual final document. But if you're answering those questions, if you've edited and it looks and sounds good, then that's great. And it'll be, you know, a great way to better understand who you are as a person. I highly recommend having it read over by a couple of individuals, all of whom you trust. I had my personal statement read over by the individuals who were writing my reference letters, and it helped give them a better representation of who I was, you know, maybe outside of a classroom context, but also helped me ensure that I was representing myself well in the academic context. And it is 750 words, and just make sure not to go over that. So a bit about references. So we require 2 references, and while it's preferable for both of them to be academic, if you can at least have one that's academic, that's good. Given the things that we are asking of referees in the document, which can be found online, individuals who know you in an academic context will have kind of the best history of who you are to answer those questions. But in the event that, let's say, I don't know, you're in a really big program and it's been hard to have a closer relationship with a professor or someone in an academic context, or you've been out of school for quite some time, and so the individuals who you taught perhaps don't remember you or are not teaching anymore, we don't want that to disadvantage you. So just make sure to speak to the referees so they understand what's being asked of them, and you know that they are going to be able to represent you in the best way possible. So the LSAT. The LSAT is not required for McGill, and only about 40% of the incoming class this year has taken it, and it generally hovers somewhere around 30 to 40%. So because it is not required for other schools within Quebec, it is generally individuals who either want to give their application a leg up if they feel they can do well, at McGill, or they are applying to other schools outside of Quebec that do require the LSAT. If you do have the option to write it or not, it is really a personal decision. There is no, great advantage or great disadvantage to writing it. It does take time. It is not a free test. So those are things that you want to consider. It's just really important that you take time to consider whether this is going to be the thing that can, help your application really shine and stand out. But you are not disadvantaged if you write it or don't write it if you have the choice. And it's important to know if you do write it more than once, we take the average of your grades, but we will be able to see the, separate grades. So let's say, there's an improvement, that's really great, things like that. And the last supporting document that is mandatory is the admissions demographic survey, which is the latest and new supporting document. So this is a document that is filled out on Microsoft Forms and then is attached to your application. It's important to know, and it also says this in the survey, that this is not used to make a decision on your file. It really is to help us better understand applicants all the way through till decision. In years past, we have had kind of two different surveys, and using this one survey that's attached to all applicants will help us better gauge how well we're doing in our recruitment and outreach efforts. But there is do not fear that this is going to advantage or disadvantage your application. We're just going to be gathering numbers at the end of the admissions process, and more information is on our website and within the form itself. So to move on to two additional supporting documents. The first being the extenuating circumstances document. So this is a document that is, optional, but every student has the right to include it or not. And basically, this is a space where you can take time to describe to us any difficulty that you had that might show up on a transcript. So for example, we're thinking about poor grades. We're thinking about a lower LSAT score, an absence from school. If you want to take the time to write up a document that explains why these things might be on your transcript or not on your transcript, or why you weren't able to involve yourself more in XYZ, that is a right that you have. We're alongside all of the other holistic processes, we're going to look at this extenuating circumstance within your application holistically, and it really just helps us better understand anything that you're telling us needs a little bit more explanation in your application. It's possible to include supporting documentation, no, not required. And only one version is accepted. So make sure that the final version that you are ready to hand in is the final version, because you are not allowed to upload a new one. And of course, with all of the all of the pieces of your application, confidentiality is of the utmost importance. And so you don't have to worry that if you are writing to us about any particular situation that has happened to you, that we're going to then share it outside of individuals in the admissions process. It really is just to be used to help you and not to disadvantage you in any way. And then the second and last additional supporting document is required for anyone who is self-identified as Indigenous on the application form. And so, this document was born out of a recognition that Indigenous peoples do have a distinct experience from other equity-seeking groups. And this is due to many things, including the historical and structural effects of colonialism on these individuals. And so we're sensitive to the ways that Indigenous peoples have been affected. So this document really gives Indigenous applicants the opportunity to speak to us about their connections to Indigenous community, or if there are no connections yet, then the desired connections, and how that all relates to their law school experience. So it's possible to include a letter of support from community, from Indigenous community members as well, in order to kind of bolster that as well. Un petit peu sur la procédure d'entrevue. Alors, pour chacun des cégeps, des candidats de cégep, c'est obligatoire. Alors, et pour les autres candidats, c'est le cas échéant. Chaque entrevue, c'est environ 25 minutes et c'est en présence de au moins 2 membres de la faculté. Ça va être en anglais et en français et ça va être par vidéoconférence. Les questions sont variées. Il n'y en a pas comme un liste de questions qui pourrait être trouvée comme en ligne ou quelque chose comme ça. Et le but, c'est de vous connaître un petit peu mieux. Pour les étudiants de cégep, c'est pour savoir si ils pourront avoir du succès pendant leur programme ici à la faculté. Et pour les autres candidats, la plupart des fois, c'est pour répondre à des questions qu'on a qu'on a après lire leur application à admission. And all interviews will take place between March and May. At times they extend a little bit past that, but generally it is in that time. A quick note on COVID-19 impacts on future admission cycles. So from last admission cycle on, winter 2020 grades are not going to be included in any calculation of the CGPA. Of course, we'll be able to see your transcript. And so, don't worry that if you did really well, that we're going to completely disregard that. It's just in terms of the calculation of your overall GPA, we're not going to include it, given the fact that many schools did many different things to kind of palliate things that were happening in that semester. Candidate advising and recruitment events this semester are exclusively online, and for next semester, they will either stay exclusively online or be in a hybrid approach, leaning more towards virtual as much as is possible. And there's a note here on remote pedagogy. It is due to the fact that currently our first year students, there are a couple of courses where they are supposed to be in one group, but given social distancing rules and the kind of limitations on space of the faculty, there are a couple courses that are online, but for the most part, our program is taking place in person. And there has been a first year facilitator that was created last year and really designated to help coordinate the first year program and create the best possible experience for incoming students. So we spoke a little bit about financial support and financial considerations in school. This is a quick snapshot of the some important numbers, whether you are from Quebec or outside, and a little bit about financial aid that exists for applicants. There are the McCall-McBain scholarships, which began last year and are entering their second year. The application has closed for this year, so for individuals who will be entering the law program next fall. But it's always possible to kind of keep up to date with them, as that program is constantly kind of updating and renewing. And so you can check out their website to have more information about that. But it does offer full tuition and for the entire program and a living stipend. So obviously this is a really unique and great opportunity to be able to have finances not be an issue in exploring your law degree. There are also Faculty of Law entrance scholarships, so about a quarter of the admitted students will receive one, and all applicants, apart from CEGEP applicants, are automatically considered. The reason why CEGEP applicants are not considered within the Faculty of Law entrance scholarships is because McGill Central's Scholarship and Student Aid Office will consider them, as their their entrance scholarships are earmarked for individuals who don't have any prior degrees and prior undergraduate degrees. And then, as I said, there is a McGill University entrance scholarship and bursaries program. And bursaries, it's necessary to complete a financial needs analysis before being accepted. Or sorry, before being given the scholarship, but after you have been accepted to the program. some key dates, and we are gearing up for the question and answer period. So September 1st, our applications opened. Really important, November 1st is when you need to have your web application in. And then 1 week later on November 8th is when you need to have all your supporting documents in. Do this earlier rather than later to avoid any issues that can arise. You don't want to be scrambling, at 11:45 p.m. prior to the day that it's due because you forgot to include, XYZ in a document. So really important that you get these things done earlier rather than later. Offers of admissions are extended from about December to June. There are times, of course, considering the wait list, where these will be extended beyond June, but it is our desire to have as many people as possible have responses to their applications by June. This past admission cycle, that was a little bit more difficult given the sharp increase in numbers. But yes, this is our kind of desire year after year. And so kind of next steps, I think Kelly has included the link to the application or information and admissions guide on our website. And so that will have the most up-to-date information and where you can go to then apply. And it's really important to verify the status of your application on Minerva as you wait for a decision. There may be, different transcripts or whatever that you might be missing that you're not aware of. So important to check that regularly, but do allow at least 48 hours for Minerva to update after including an application. So there are our websites and our emails and a way to book us for meetings. And I'm going to open the floor for questions. So I'll ask all of the panelists to open up their cameras, perhaps not unmute themselves yet. And then Kelly will be moderating the Q&A section.
Okay, so we have quite a few questions. Some of them I think have been addressed, but it never hurts to just do a little repeat. So one question is about, is it mandatory to take certain courses only in French?
I don't mind speaking to that. So it is not mandatory to take any certain courses in French. There are some courses that will only be offered in French, given amongst other things, their kind of attachment to the civil law jurisdiction. There are the first year classes are both English, both in English and in French. So it's possible to take them in either or. At times, it might be that you are a little bit late registering, and so you'll have to register in a course that is not your first language. But this is why we require that passive bilingualism, so that if that happens, you're not going to be disadvantaged based on your level of either language.
Okay. The second one is, is there an R-score standard?
No.
No. I was just going to say no, but I'm like, I'll let Brittany answer. Okay. For the personal statement and choosing referees, it's a big question. They want to know how they should submit their personal statement. What would be the first step of the application? Who's the best kind of referee to choose? Anyone want to address that?
So I'll just touch on the application piece, and then Nathan, you can go ahead, or Nathaniel, sorry, you can go ahead and answer the referee part. In terms of how to start your application, the best place to start is to check out our website and look at all of the helpful information there. We do work really hard on it every year, and all of the information is there. And so if after you read that through, there are really some lingering questions. You can email us to book a meeting or drop into one of our advising sessions to be able to have that question answered. So yeah, Nathaniel, you can go ahead and answer the referee question.
Oh, Nathaniel, you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you. No, it's okay. For some reason, I'm having trouble manually unmuting myself. Okay, yeah. So this is a fantastic question. It's definitely one that I definitely like put a lot of thought into. So what I did is I reached out to two professors who knew my work pretty well, and they were key. Honestly, they were extremely helpful. I found a lot of times too, professors, especially in the arts, they know about law school. They definitely had like done a few of these like recommendation letters in general. So that was good. I'd also reach out to people who you think, because I think two are academic or something, if I like remember. Anyways, so definitely one's like academic. I think one's like professional. I would reach out to like your boss if you have one. So here's another example. I was doing an internship, and I got my supervisor to write a reference letter for me. I've heard of people writing reference letters who like worked at like Michael Kors, and they asked their boss to write a reference letter for them too. So really, people who you think can speak to your like ability. So for instance, both are academic, so that's great, and then someone who can speak to your work ethic as well. So something that's very practical. That's the route that I went.
Okay. Okay, you just answered that one too. How can I prepare for an interview?
Beatrice, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, so I went through the interview process, and I think the best like way to prepare is to kind of sit down with someone who who you trust, and go over like basic questions that you might predict could come up, and know your CV and your personal statement like inside and out. That was kind of how I prepared, just as I would for a job interview. And because I'm bilingual, but French is my second language, I also made sure to practice every question in French as well. And I also made sure to just like kind of take a deep breath and make sure that that day I like didn't have anything else to do, so that I could really just like focus on being in the zone. And once you get there, like the stress kind of wears off. But definitely like practicing is the key, in my opinion, to succeed. And just knowing why you want to go to McGill Law, knowing why you want law school, like why law school at McGill, like having the answers to these questions is what will help you succeed, in my opinion, from my experience.
I have a question about minors while you're in the program. Can you, yeah, Josie?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's for you.
okay. So I did see the question, and there was specifically about a course. So I'm just going to make a distinction. So as of second year, you can declare a minor if you wish to pursue one. It's not required. A lot of our CEGEP or students who come from CEGEP is something that they consider just because they kind of feel like they need to take courses outside of the Faculty of Law. So you can pursue a minor in the Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Management, Science, and the list for the Faculty of Arts is long. So you have a lot of options to choose from. And it's an additional 18 to 24 credits to your BCL JD. So there's that option. And then as part of your BCL JD, you have the option of taking 6 credits that are non-law. So you can take up to a maximum of 2 courses outside of the Faculty of Law, whether it be in music or arts or science or computer science. And the goal or the purpose of this is really to come and enrich your degree. A lot of students also take non-law courses in languages if they want to improve their French because they want to pursue le barreau here in Quebec, or they're planning to go on exchange in Spain and they want to improve their Spanish, so they'll take Spanish courses. So it really is an opportunity to enrich your BCL JD experience. So I hope that answers the question for that student.
Nathaniel, you might want to answer the question about the MSW program. They're asking, would the application for the MSW be any different than the admission process for the BCL JD program?
All right. Hi, I think that's HIFSA. Okay, hey, how's it going? Okay, cool. So you literally have to apply to both separately. So you have to apply to the JD BCL program, and then you need to apply to the MSW program. Now, for the JDL BCL, we just did the whole thing on that, so you know the applications for that. For the MSW, when I applied in 2018, 2017, figuring, for that program, I think you had to do a bachelor's of social work already. And there's some other like qualifications, but it's directly for the MSW. So it really feels like you're doing two different applications. If you are approved for both by McGill, then it's assumed that you will be doing the joint program. So I got into law school and I got into the Masters of Social Work program separately. It was two separate applications. And then when I got accepted into both, they were able to like combine, if that makes sense. So I would look at the qualifications for the MSW. The MSW page also talks about the joint program as well, but you need to do two separate applications. And also feel free to, I'm sure Brittany's going to bring this up later, but you can really like contact me. Like, this is why I'm here. So please feel free to contact me after if you want to talk more.
We have a lot of questions about mature applicants. Are they viewed differently? What are the likelihood of them being accepted in the program? Do we have any kind of numbers? Do we expect anything from them that's different from other applicants?
Yeah, so in terms of how we look at their applications, we look at it the exact same, on the same level as a university or a CJEP applicant. The reality of it is mature students have not, and I don't think will ever be like the majority in a class. So, when you kind of break down the numbers of, undergraduate or students come from undergraduate programs or grad programs, and then CJEP, and then mature, it just so happens that the numbers are not going to be as much as, an undergraduate, the individuals coming from an undergraduate degree. But otherwise, we are looking at your application the same as we would others. Obviously, there are, we're shifting our brains as an admissions committee a little bit to look at your experiences after school. But kind of that holistic approach really does then involve you as a mature student. And so we're not going to say like, oh, well, I wonder why this person took at least 5 years off of school. That doesn't make any sense. No. We're going to look at the things that you've done in that time, and how it makes you kind of how it raises your potential to be a great McGill law student.
Okay, I think we covered this too. What do we look for in a cover letter? I'm assuming that's the personal statement.
Yeah, we
covered it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a good question. What are the requirements for candidates who have degrees from universities outside of Canada and like international students? And how do we calculate their GPAs?
Kelly, do you want to go ahead and answer this one?
Yes. I would love to answer that question. So we know how to do that. It doesn't matter for us that you're an international student, that you studied, wherever in the world you studied. We have a grading scale and we do our internal GPA calculations, and it's based on a 4.0. So even if you went to a university that's not on a 4.0, I know some of them, when they're giving you their grades, it's like 8 on 20 or 9 on 13. It's very strange to us, but we know how to calculate it, and it'll always be converted to a 4.0 on the McGill scale. So no worries about that. We know how to calculate those GPAs. We know how to read those transcripts. They have to be in either English or French. So you need them changed, you know, if they're only in one language, they need to be in one of our official languages, which is English or French. And that's it for that. Okay, if you wrote the LSAT and your first score was really low, would you suggest that they rewrite it or just forget about it?
So I might give a response that maybe is like not entirely helpful, but it is a personal choice. We have individuals who, you know, don't perform well on the LSAT and decide not to write it again for a myriad of issues and are, you know, successful. We have individuals who just do decide to write it again and are successful or unsuccessful. It really, there is no kind of one way to look at that. It is really a personal choice as to whether you want to write it again. So, you know, if you have the capacity, if you have the financial resources, and if you decide that this is what is going to be best for your application, then by all means. And if you decide that is not, then, you know, more power to you as well.
Okay. There's a question about previous law studies. They would like to know if that would be possible to get credited in the program for those law studies that were previously taken.
So I think probably both Kelly and Josie can answer this in terms of transfer students.
Right.
Yeah.
So Josie?
No, so yeah, so we have two here. So are you a transfer student, which means that you've completed a minimum of 30 credits at another Canadian law school, or are you an advanced standing student where you've completed a law degree outside of Canada? So depending on which category you are, then courses will be, your transcript and your courses will be looked at. And with the Associate Dean of Academics, we will look at which courses will be credited to you, up to a maximum of 30 credits.
Perfect.
And Kelly, do you want to add just a bit about the dates and how they're different in terms of application deadline?
Absolutely. Yes. So if you're applying as a transfer student, you can look on our website to see exactly how the application is done. Your deadlines are a little bit different than the November 1st and the March 1st deadlines. Your deadline for submitting your application would be May 1st, and your deadline for submitting your supporting documents would be June 15th. So I recommend that you really look at the website and check that out. You also have to have at least 1 year of full-time studies completed in an undergraduate program at another Canadian law faculty. Okay, so you can't apply as a transfer student if you're doing like poli-sci at another university. It has to be 1 full year of a law program at another Canadian law school. Oh, so many questions.
There was a question about Indigenous applicants and the
Yes, that was next.
So yeah, okay, great. So yeah, in terms of the required, like the letter from community, this is just an added thing that can be included as kind of additional to that supporting document. And this is really like, it is to be interpreted liberally. So if you have someone who, you know, because we're looking at, you know, your connections to community and things like that, if you do have someone who wants to, you know, kind of write a letter of support for you and your candidacy, that can speak to, you know, some of the things that we have identified should be in that supporting document, then, you know, we encourage you to include that.
There's some questions about the 2020 year and if those grades would be included, but I'm pretty sure you said they wouldn't be, right, Brittany?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think more specifically, sorry, Kelly, I'm seeing here they're asking if you're looking at the full year, fall and winter,
Right.
or only the winter 2020.
It's winter 2020 and summer 2020. So we don't look at those grades. I mean, if you got good grades, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. It will not be calculated anyway, but we will be able to look at them, obviously. Okay, when we're writing our personal statements, should we write them in 2 languages?
So we got this question a little earlier today. It depends. Always best to write in the language you are most comfortable in order to best express yourself and best kind of put your best foot forward in your application. If you are, so there's, I mean, we have seen it kind of in 2 ways, though there might be more. If you are perfectly bilingual and feel that expressing yourself in both English and French will help, kind of represent who you are as an individual, by all means, you can do that. Just make sure that, with any piece of writing, it flows, it makes sense. And that is a requirement basically of whether you're writing in English, French, or both. If you are writing to demonstrate that you have a competency, or like that you're trying to prove that you can speak or write both in English and in French, if you're going to do that, just make sure that you are editing even more than you would if you were writing in one language, because we can tell when you write something in one language, pop it in, even a good translator, and then put it on a piece of paper, we can tell. So there, like, I would say, if you're worried about demonstrating what your either French or English abilities are, try to find other ways to do that than having both languages in your personal statement, because what you don't want to do is represent yourself not as great by having maybe more of a disjointed piece of writing.
Great. There's a lot of questions about CEGEP. What's the likelihood of a CEGEP student being accepted into the program? The numbers, if we know, like, is it better to apply right out of CEGEP, or is it better to apply once you have an undergrad degree? I mean,
so 30 individuals in this first year now are from CEGEP. So that's 30 out of 180, which I think is about 17 or 18%. It oftentimes hovers somewhere around there, but that's not like, we're not capping it or anything like that. We do have the knowledge that, like, there are other programs where it'll be made up of more CEGEP students, but we are looking for kind of, the best students. So we're not going to fill the class before CEGEP students even get a chance. But it's just about kind of putting your best foot forward. And so the numbers do generally stay the same. Around 15 to 20% of the class will be CEGEP. But I would say, if you feel like you have a strong application, it's good to look at the numbers in terms of the R scores that have been interviewed, to know where you fall there. But if you have a great application and you feel like you should be kind of given a chance to show whether you could be a great student at McGill, then you should apply.
there's a good question here in the chat that I'm looking at now. It's regarding a bachelor's degree. She's doing, or they're doing one in music and in science. But they want to know how it, like, would all their courses be on one transcript? How would the admissions committee handle this? I mean, it's a transcript, right? And it's part of your degree. So we would look at the entire transcript and we would calculate your GPA based on your first degree that you have completed. So, oh, and the pass-fail courses, Brittany, would anybody be penalized for pass-fail?
No. The courses in the, no.
I didn't think so. Okay. All right. There's a couple more questions in the chat. We answered quite a few of these, so I feel like I don't know if you want to repeat a few things, Brittany, about the English and the French tests, how to prove that you have sufficient French.
Yeah, so I mean, as was said before, in terms of proving your language, you can do that in a couple of places. If you don't have anything on your transcript, then including in your CV, you can include it in your personal statement and speak to any experiences you have in either or both official languages. And it is possible at times to have a French test be conducted, and a very small amount of people actually have this done, but it is an opportunity for us to assess your level of French after having assessed your application. And it's not like an official interview or anything, and it doesn't definitely mean you are going to be offered admission or definitely not.
Okay. I'm trying to go through all of the questions. A lot of them, again, you've answered quite a few of them, Brittany. I haven't seen any that you haven't already answered. I mean, if they have questions, they can always email us directly if they like. But a lot of these questions you've already answered.
Yeah.
There's
I saw a question about the time frame for applying. The dates are always the same. They always stay the same. So it'll be November 1st for undergraduate, mature, and advanced standing applicants. And then November 8th is for university and mature supporting documents. And then January for advanced standing supporting documents. March 1st is for CEGEP, and then March 8th is for CEGEP supporting documents. And we only ever do admissions kind of in one go, except if you are applying to a program that doesn't lead to a BCL JD. So if you're coming on exchange, if you are wanting to be a visiting student or something like that, and that information is on our website. But those are the ton of times of entry. And so everyone is always starting, end of August, beginning of September every year.
okay. There's
So
a kind of there's a follow-up question that I was looking at regarding the Indigenous supporting document.
Yeah, the question around a member of a band council. Yeah, I was just typing up, but I can answer it out loud. So a member of the band council could be great. We just want to hear about your connections to Indigenous community. We don't want to tell you who would be best to hear from, but it's about kind of who can speak to what we're looking for. So if that's a member of the band council, then great. If that's just a kind of a general member of the community, then that's great as well.
Also, someone's asking if it's a higher likelihood to get accepted if they apply earlier.
Sorry, say that again.
Because it's the admissions is on a rolling basis when we send out offers. Do those who submit their application earlier have a higher likelihood of getting accepted?
No. No, we don't start looking at applications for a particular category until everyone in that category has been given the chance to have all of their documentation in.
I also have a question regarding reference letters from previous applications, if they can reuse those reference letters.
Yeah, so definitely possible. You're going to want to make sure, though, that still speaks to who you are, your abilities. So if you haven't, if you have a reference that was used for a previous application, but might not take into account a new job that you've had or a new program or something like that, you are going to want to make sure, or you're going to want to kind of think about whether you still want to include that. But we understand if you do want, to include something that's from an academic perspective, and perhaps you've been out of school for some time, where this person just really speaks well to who you are, then that could be a great, still a great, reference letter.
And to follow up on that, for a current CEGEP student, considering the pandemic and online schooling, will it be acceptable to submit references from high school teachers rather than CEGEP professors, since they would know them better?
We do, strongly encourage you to get a reference from a CEGEP professor. I would say that most CEGEP professors understand the constraints in terms of asking for references and things like that. So the earlier you reach out to them, the better. If you're considering it for, this admission cycle, reach out to them now, speak to them, get to know them a little bit. These professors don't need to be your best friends or your like ultimate mentors. And some professors will, do the work of going through your transcript or meeting with you to talk to you about, who you are and what you want to do. So perhaps it's not always simple, or it's not always easy to find someone who's going to be able to speak to your abilities. But I would say that the earlier you start, the better, because you can kind of form those relationships as you're applying. So I see that it's 7:30, and everyone has an evening to get to. Beatrice and Nathaniel, I wonder if you have like one or two, like a line to kind of support, I guess, to throw out to students who are in the midst of preparing their applications. And then I'll let Josie also add anything, and then myself and Kelly can sign off.
Okay, perfect. I'm unmuted. Yeah, I would just say that, make sure that when you apply, you just put your authentic self forward and don't try and like please some certain image of what you think like the school wants to hear. I'm personally really grateful for my experience from the admissions process to now being in 4L. Like I've loved it all and I've had such a great experience here. And also just I had seen a question that I think like accidentally got lost about people from CEGEP, like is it harder coming from CEGEP? Will I not be able to succeed? Don't think that way. I feel like in the program CEGEP students are just as capable, and I haven't had this like immense struggle that undergrad students haven't had. So just like believe in yourself, as corny as it sounds, and make sure to present yourself as you are, and hopefully it will work out for you. And yeah, thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, I think just even mirroring Beatrice, when it comes to McGill, show as much as you can, paint a really good picture of yourself on your cover letter. My cover letter was really holistic. And what you put on your cover letter in terms of your interests, that's going to change, and that's okay too, especially when you start the program and everything. So I think for me, the best thing I did was I didn't hold back, even in my like writing style of the actual like cover letter. Mine was more like storytelling than it was actually like, here's I did this and I did this, and the faculty likes that because we really value like a diverse community, and it makes a huge difference within the actual student body. So just kind of like leave it all out there. I did like 12 drafts of my cover letter. Get everyone to read it. Get as many people as you can to read it. There's no shame in that. Have your dog read it, a cat read it, have everyone read it, and give their like opinion. Also, Brittany, I have a question for you. If some of the prospective students wanted to contact us, how would they do so?
They can reach out to us at the admissions office, and then we'll funnel all of their messages to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Go ahead, Josie.
So yes, I'd like to thank Beatrice and Nathaniel. Great tips. One coming from undergrad degree, one coming from CEGEP. When the dean did their welcome speech, they were sitting side by side, and both of them capable, ready to take on the adventure of pursuing a BCL JD. So great tips for prospective students. Great questions that you guys asked. It's been a great experience. I wish you all the best of luck. And I think the big takeaway from here is when you write your personal statement is to be authentic, to be yourself. And like Nathaniel said, just, put it all out there, because the Faculty of Law really is diversity. And we just have an amazing cohort. We have amazing cohorts year after year. And that's all thanks to the admissions office and the prospective students that apply time and time again. So again, good luck, and I hope to see you in the future.
I mean, what Josie said, I was going to emphasize that as well. It's really being your authentic self, being genuine, not to put too much pressure on yourself. I know it's a lot on your plate. It's a lot of pressure, to get in, to succeed. But I think you have to also be a little bit easy on yourself, and I'm sure everything will set well at the end. It's been a pleasure for me to be part also for this admissions workshop. And I think what Nathaniel and Beatrice's tips were phenomenal. So I've actually learned a lot also from that perspective, from the student's perspective. So I'm sure it was very useful for future students as well. So thank you all.
Great. So thank you so much, everyone. You can find Kelly and our other colleagues from the admissions office in our drop-in advising that happens every week until the 3rd week of October, and that information is on our website. As well, we're having our open house on October 16th, where you'll be able to interact with not only admissions staff, but also a bunch more student ambassadors who are going to be really excited to speak with you about the prospect of studying at McGill. Just so you know, this session was recorded, so we're going to be uploading all of that information onto our YouTube page and sending a link out to all of the attendees in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We really appreciate your time, and we wish you the best of luck in applying to the Faculty of Law. Take care, everyone.
Bonne chance tout le monde.